Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. A historic legal decision in British Columbia has sent shockwaves through a small seaside city. If the provincial Supreme Court decision holds, it would give the Cowichan tribes control over a section of land that houses more than 100 properties owned by non-Indigenous residents. It's a one-of-a-kind ruling that could have far-reaching implications across Canada. We'll hear from Cowichan leaders coming up right after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. The Gila River Indian community in Arizona has long relied on convenience stores to feed its 13,000 residents, who otherwise may have to drive as far as half an hour away to neighboring cities with grocery stores. But as KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrorazio reports, a new market a decade in the making has opened much closer to home.
This isn't a Bash's, it's not a Safeway or a Walmart.
Duncan Winston with Gila River Development says the tribe's new 14,000 square foot supermarket in the heart of Saskatoon is much more than a store. It's a symbol of their sovereignty, since few, if any, tribes outright own their own grocers.
We don't want to leave that in the hands of a larger chain to determine who gets what. We want to be able to fight for ourselves and bring the necessary goods to our community when we need them.
From fresh produce and butchered meats to a deli serving local favorites, like the Works Burger.
One of the biggest demands from the community was you got to bring the Works back, and so we've done that.
But that doesn't come cheap because of what some refer to as resflation.
We have experienced it here. I mean, it's difficult finding reputable vendors who are willing to bring us goods and services at a fair price. Although we are rural, we are a lot closer to the metropolitan Phoenix area than a lot of the other tribes in Arizona.
For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrorazio.
Sea Alaska Heritage Institute recently opened its new science education building. The space and the educators inside are working to combine traditional knowledge with new technology to expand access to science for young people in Juneau, Alaska. KTOO's Yvonne Crumry reports.
At a ceremony, Tlingit language professor Hune Lance Twitchell said that bringing traditional ways of being into the present isn't a contradiction.
It's not a living in two-world situation. It's living as an Indigenous person with multiple languages and multiple identities and being just fine with it. You don't have to be just one thing.
And the new SHI Indigenous Science Building around the corner carries that sentiment in all the services it offers. The building on Heritage Way hosts a digital media lab with a podcast booth and video production software, an Indigenous science research lab that studies cultural resources like seaweed and clams, and a makerspace with a digital wood carving machine. That last one made name tags instructors are wearing as they lead tours of the new building. In the traditional foods and medicine kitchen, instructor Seeltin Jamian Hasselquist says she and others are bringing old ways to process and preserve food into the present.
Whatever people can dream up that they would like to do in this kitchen, I think that we could try to make their dreams happen.
With freeze dryers, pressure cookers, dehydrators, and space to build traditional drying racks, Hasselquist says they're making and preserving traditional foods that elders would make when she was a kid, like cheese kahak, a rich and smoky paste made of fermented salmon eggs. She scoops some out of a glass jar and spreads it on a cracker for anyone who wants to try it.
Someone tasted that cheese kahak, and they took one bite, and they said, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. I haven't tasted this for 30 years. It's been 3 decades." And they thought that they would never try it again.
Elders have been approaching Hasselquist with foods they remember from childhood but don't know how to make.
If we could have workshops and share that knowledge, and we're rebirthing, this Indigenous way of living and being.
Next, she wants to find out how to make cold-pressed seal grease. In Juneau, I'm Yvonne Crumry.
And I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support by Sonosky Chambers Law, championing tribal sovereignty and Native American rights since 1976. From opioids litigation to treaty rights to tribal self-governance. With offices in Washington, D.C., New Mexico, California, and Alaska. Sonosky Chambers Law.
Support by Amerind, Indian Country's 100% tribally owned insurance partner. Information on property, liability, workers' compensation, and commercial auto needs at AMERIND.com.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. A court ruling in Canada is a major victory for a tribe's land claim in British Columbia, but it's creating major uncertainty for private property owners. The provincial Supreme Court judge ruled that the Cowichan Nation has rights to 4.5 square miles of land within the city of Richmond. The land is already home to more than 100 homes owned by non-Indigenous residents. The city's leadership is appealing the decision currently. We'll get perspectives from British Columbia's regional chief and a legal expert over the path of this case and the implications for other tribal land claims. Later in the hour, we'll also discuss a controversial road project on an Aleutian island in Alaska. The proposed King Cove Road would connect the town of King Cove to an airport, but would cut through a national wildlife refuge. If you'd like to join this conversation with a comment or question, please call us 1-800-996-2848, 1-800-996-2848, and that number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Joining us now from British Columbia is Terry Teegee. He is the regional chief of the British Columbia Assembly of First Nations. He is a member of the Takla Nation. Chief Teegee, good morning, and welcome to Native America Calling.
Good morning.
Also joining us from British Columbia is Darwin Hanna. He is an attorney and founding partner of Callison and Hanna. He is a member of the Inklapamuk Nation. Darwin, good morning to you as well. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Darwin, I'd like you to start us off, please. Can you begin by explaining why this case is so noteworthy?
Yes, this is the first time in Canada that a First Nation has received a declaration of original title over private land holdings in Richmond. And the court found that the issuance of the fee simple title to private land holders and to the government of Canada and to the city of Richmond were offside of original title, that these the land title that was issued by the province of British Columbia did not extinguish the original title of the Cowichan tribe, that the issuance of ownership to these individuals into the federal crown, into the city, did not infringe the original title of the Cowichan tribe, and that the province, the provincial government, had no authority, no jurisdiction to extinguish the original title of the Cowichan tribe. In fact, the province should have had these lands set aside at least as a reserve for the use and benefit of the Cowichan tribe, and that the provincial crown breached its duty to the Cowichan tribe by having these lands sold to third parties and alienated to third parties without dealing with the interests of the Cowichan tribe in their lands, and that that these lands were utilized by the Cowichan tribe as a village site. The Cowichan tribe would, on a seasonal basis, would go to this village site for fishing purposes, for fishing for salmon, and that these lands should have never been sold to the settlers, and that the court ordered that the federal government and provincial government negotiate with the Cochin Tribe to address these interests that were conferred to third parties to provide essentially either the return of these lands or compensation in a manner consistent with the honor of the Crown. And this is a very brief overview of the court decision, which is the longest trial in Canada's history. And so it's of a real precedent to First Nations across Canada. And so essentially the homeowners have deficient land title, and the Crown has to deal with the Aboriginal title interests of the Cochin Tribe.
Okay, Darwin, thank you for framing the conversation for us. TG, I'd like to bring you in now and tell us more. Why is this decision so important for Indigenous people and their land in Canada?
Well, I think, what we're seeing here is that prior to any municipalities such as Richmond, the province of BC, or Canada, as Darwin said, third parties were here and these lands were sold and or put up for auction or what have you without proper compensation to those First Nations. And I think what we're seeing here is really a mess in terms of it was created by really settlers. And I think, this is a problem across British Columbia because we have a number of lands here in BC that are unceded. And First Nations have never given up their rights to those lands. So we're left with this space where there is question, this what we call the land question, in regards to recognition of really First Nations rights, title, and interests, and really our human rights to access to lands that were used, in this case, perhaps for fishing or any other use. And, other court declarations and other agreements actually in British Columbia have recognized titles, such as recently here this past year, recognition of Haida title, Supreme Court decision of title for the Civil team. And the courts have been holding up and then recognizing that First Nations, especially those that have no agreement or no recognition of some sort of constructive arrangement, that they've never given up these lands. We've seen it elsewhere in Canada as well. I believe there's a provincial court case in New Brunswick that also recognized title for those First Nations. And really, I think this is a case where, as in other cases in perhaps in British Columbia and Canada, where the courts are siding with First Nations and are recognizing the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples in their decisions, and stating, that First Nations do have these rights. So we don't live in courts, and more often than not, either the tribunal or the judge says, go and work something out, go negotiate. So I think in this case, perhaps, what needs to happen is negotiations with the province of BC, Canada. I don't know if landowners have to come in here because the Cowichan weren't asking for a declaration. And I think there's, sadly, as a result of this court case, and court case similar to this, we see a lot of misinformation, rhetoric. We see a lot of racism in regards. And the mayor of Richmond, British Columbia, is really stoking the fire and stating that, First Nations are coming after your lands, especially private owners, and which isn't the case. Okay. I believe that isn't the case.
Well, Chief DG, let's talk more about that, though. As you mentioned, city officials and also some of these non-Indigenous property owners, they are concerned about what this means, the potential lack of control over what they consider their property. Do you feel any obligation to address those concerns or fears?
Well, I think in terms of First Nations, I think, with First Nations such as here or any other unceded territory, we're going to get more of this, because certainly I think other First Nations are seeking court declarations, perhaps, or asserting their sovereignty to their respective lands. I think it's really necessary that this can be avoided. I think, with negotiations with those First Nations, and it's to avoid either court declarations or some others, perhaps third party making decisions for ourselves. So I think, this was the whole point of, in the early 90s, was to try to resolve this land question with treaty negotiations. It didn't work out for some First Nations. It didn't work out for a lot of First Nations, I would say. But there are modern treaties. There is a Nisga'a Treaty. There are historical treaties. But in the end, I guess what I'm saying, regardless if it's a treaty or other constructive arrangement, there's going to have to be some sort of negotiations, especially with lands like this that have overlapping jurisdiction of municipalities such as Richmond, province of BC, and the federal government. We're going to have to come, those First Nations and all levels of government have to come to certain sort of negotiations, either before going to court or after going to court. I mean, we're left at this place, right? I think those First Nations who have interests here are going to be left with some sort of negotiations.
All right. Thank you, Chief TG. Darwin, I'd like to go back to you. We have about a minute before we have to take our next break, but you mentioned earlier this case. It's, I believe you said, the longest case in Canadian Supreme Court history, 11 years. What changed during that time that paved the way for such a historic acknowledgement of Aboriginal land claims?
Back to what's changed, that the outstanding issue is that First Nations throughout British Columbia have claimed Aboriginal title. It has been unresolved over the years. There have been processes to address Aboriginal title, but these processes have not led to recognition by the Crown, and so then the result here is that First Nations have to depend upon the courts to seek a resolution of their claims to Aboriginal title. Properly, there should be good faith negotiations in an effort to achieve reconciliation of their Aboriginal title. And
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to take another break here, our first break, excuse me, and we're going to come back and we'll continue this conversation here. We're learning about this court ruling in Canada, major victory for a tribe's land claim in British Columbia. However, a local city is appealing the decision. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is Sean Spruce, host of Native America Calling. You can listen in every weekday to hear the only national call-in show from a Native American perspective. We explore topics that range from traditional cultural practices to up-to-the-minute news that affects every American. We hope you can join us for the next Native America Calling.
Kilamik Ikayorominarasi, Okadilugu, Indian healthcare provider, Iliturifsaukufsi, breast cancer screening option, Aperhutakaufsi, Naka visitor Lugu healthcare.gov/coverage, Naka caller Lugu 1-800-318-2596. Unakaira Center for Medicare and Medicaid Service.
Thank you for listening to Native America Calling. We're getting perspectives on a court decision in Canada that is a historic acknowledgement of Indigenous claims to land. Later, we'll speak with leaders in Alaska about a controversial road proposal that would cut through a wildlife refuge and could affect migratory bird habitat. Please join our conversation with a comment or question by calling 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Darwin Hanna is on the line in British Columbia. He is legal representation in this case. And Darwin, as you had mentioned earlier, the case boils down to Aboriginal title versus fee simple title. And you talked about that a little bit earlier, but can you explain those terms in a little bit more detail? And does this case put that issue to bed?
Yes, it's been certain court declarations of the substance of Aboriginal title. So Aboriginal title means that a First Nation has a right to use and occupy their Aboriginal lands have the right to make decisions, they have the right to govern their lands. And the Crown has to build Aboriginal title lands in their best interests, in that they need to have the consent of the nation before there's any development on those lands. So really the First Nations that have Aboriginal title have the driver's seat to any development and to ensure that their way of life continues on their lands. And it's not to be simple, is that, private land holding, it's through a provincial land title system, to the Provincial Land Titles Act. And here the court found that the Land Titles Act of the province can't defeat Aboriginal title, that the original title here was through as a result, but recognized that there was a village, and that the private land holding could not defeat the original title of the Aleutian tribe to those lands. And so fee simple arises from statute, whereas original title arises from commercial use of lands by the nations, and is recognized as a Section 35 constitutional rights protected by Canada's Constitution. So they're really quite distinct in that original title has constitutional protection, whereas fee simple has only statutory protection. And here the court found that the province, the provincial government, did not have any legal right to confer fee simple interest to private landholders because of the original title of the Aleutian tribes. And just for note, I'm not actually a lawyer on record for the Aleutian tribes or formally involved in the court cases. It's more for commentary, because I work for a lot of different First Nations in BC. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that clarification, Darwin. And what I'm hearing here is a lot of fairly complex legal terminology. It sounds confusing just to a casual listener, I would imagine. And again, going back to these non-Indigenous property owners who still might just not be fully clear of what is the situation exactly. What do they need to understand about this ruling, these property owners? What is it about this case that they either need to just not worry about so much, or maybe just refocus their attention?
For these owners, is that the First Nations do have a real legal interest in respect to these lands, and the intermediary here is the Crown, and the Crown has obligation to negotiate compensation and to negotiate arrangements to honor the Aboriginal title that has been recognized by the court. And so it's going to take time through discussions and negotiations. And so I can't speak for the private landholders, but it's likely their property values have diminished. And I expect that the nations may take steps to acquire these lands and to seek reimbursement from the Crown. And so we see this happening across Canada, whereby you have nations buying back their lands and having government provide reimbursement of those acquisition costs.
All right, Chief TG, I want to go back to you. What happens now? Do you anticipate that this debate over Aboriginal title and fee simple title will continue, or are we looking at a new chapter now in terms of the understanding of land ownership in Canada?
Yeah, I think it will continue. I think there's a lot of, despite the fact that we've had the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples as law here in the province of BC for the last 6 years and last 5 years federally. What I'm glad to see is that more courts are recognizing the declaration within their rulings, which is great because, it brings more, I would say, certainty to First Nations. It brings more certainty to the land. I think it doesn't help, when we have a premier, making comments that, these citizens of Richmond are the real people. And I mean, what about the First Nations? We have Nikki Sharma, who's the Attorney General, stating, having a very similar comment in terms of, that fee simple land and title holders of these lands, belong to the private citizens, and that trumps First Nations, and that isn't the case. And we have the mayor of Richmond sending out this letter. It really fans the flames and brings out, the letter from the Richmond mayor stating to landowners that they may get kicked off the land. I don't believe that to be the case. As Darwin said, I think there should be negotiations. It's in the province's hands. They need to go negotiate with the First Nations, all those interested parties, to resolve this issue. And I think it's really important because right now, as we've seen in the political sphere, United States, Canada, that there is a real issue in regards to the political fallout. We're seeing a lot of denialism. We're seeing a lot of racism, and this isn't helping matters. It's really being utilized as a wedge issue here in British Columbia. But certainly I expect more First Nations, especially those that have already filed in the queue, I suppose, title to their lands. Perhaps, there needs to be good faith negotiations by all parties, federally and provincially. And perhaps in this case, I don't know if the municipalities need to be involved, but it's in the courts, and the ball's in the province's court to negotiate in good faith with all interested parties with First Nations.
And to be clear for our listeners, these negotiations, first and foremost, they need to occur between the Crown and the city of Richmond and these property owners, correct? I mean, the tribal nations really take a step back in this regard.
Yeah, I think certainly, because a lot of these fee simple lands were, especially here, are under the jurisdiction of the province of British Columbia. There are some lands here and elsewhere that's under federal jurisdiction, but I think, as in the case with the Chilcotin Declaration of Title, there needs to be negotiation with the province of BC, considering that it's under province jurisdiction. And I think, with the city of Richmond, I think this is a real opportunity. In the end, regardless of what situation you have, especially on ceded territory, the quicker you get to the negotiation tables, you create more certainty in the end. Landowners, private property owners have more certainty if there's a negotiations with the First Nations in those areas, with those lands and those territories.
All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate both of you joining the show today, educating our listeners down here in the States. A very, very pivotal legal decision we're talking about today in British Columbia. The phone number to join our conversation is 1-800-99-NATIVE. If you would like to add an insight, ask a question, or share a comment, you can do so. Just pick up your phone and call 1-800-99-NATIVE. We're going to pivot now and talk about a controversial road project, an infrastructure project in Alaska. It's called the King Cove Road project, and this proposed road would connect residents in the Alaska town of King Cove to medical care, but it would cut through wildlife refuge. All right, so joining us first from King Cove, Alaska, is Warren Wilson. He is the mayor of King Cove. Mayor Wilson, hello, and welcome to Native America
Yes,
Calling.
hello. Yes, hello.
It's great to have you on the show. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you are a lifelong resident of King Cove. Tell our listeners, why is this road important?
Oh, yeah, the road is important to us here in King Cove due to the fact that we are in a very unique location in between two oceans, Bering Sea and the Pacific Ocean. And every time we have a storm from the south from the Pacific, we get a lot of rain, torrential rain, high winds, and then from the north, we get also a prevailing northwest wind, which is really, it's really turbulent getting into our airport here in King Cove, and we have a lot of problems with the airport getting soft in the winter due to the warming of the Pacific storms and the freezing of the north storms coming down from the Bering Sea. We've been advocating for this road for 40 years, and I also take care of the airport here in King Cove, so I'm pretty well educated on the runway part of King Cove. And then with the road, we've been working for the last 2.5 years on getting going through every law on every with NELCA and AINGSCA, looking for the ways to justify getting this road. The 1302H is what we're working on now. It gives us a chance to go through the wilderness and the refuge legally. So we're going on that premise. I think it's going to work this time.
Mayor Wilson, you've gone on record as stating that this road will save lives. How exactly will it accomplish that?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Here's how the road is going to save lives. Last year, we had my daughter-in-law's mother got sick with pneumonia, and she was stuck in King Cove for 3 days, and the Coast Guard finally had to come and get her, and she passed away on the plane to Anchorage. If that doesn't explain it enough, I don't know what will.
Mm-hmm. What is the support there in the community? Is there a divide at all, or are most folks in support of the road?
Oh, yeah, everybody in King Cove's been in support of the road. We've had a little bit of opposition from some folks at Cove Bay years ago, but that's since ceased. There's a few hunters and guide hunters over there that still oppose the road because it's kind of their playground over there on the refuge. But the funny part about the whole thing is the refuge has 45, 50 miles of road, and there's roads all over there that are right in the heart of that refuge.
I understand that King Cove has struggled economically for the past 1.5 years after the seafood processing plant was shut down there. Does the road have any promise to keep people there, employment and other opportunities?
Oh, yeah, there's the employment opportunities will be still here. There's the fishing fleet, the local fleet here in King Cove are still fishing for all the species of salmon and crab and cod and pollock. They're just unloading in different communities now, but there is some hope here, hopefully, that the King Cove plant will be open here soon. There is a few processors looking at the place, and just recently it was a spot they wanted to put some of the evacuees from Western Alaska here in King Cove at the plant. That's got 400 rooms here. As people came through and looked at the place already. But as far as employment goes, you could get the road to Cove Bay. There would be some jobs to take care of that road, and there would be open up opportunity for young people in King Cove to work at the FAA station over there. And have a job over there, over in Cove Bay. It would unite the two communities. We could work together. King Cove is a open water port year-round. Back in 2012, Cove Bay was froze over with ice. So if we had that road, you couldn't go over there on a regular fishing boat because of the ice. The only way you could do it is with the icebreaker in there. So there's all kinds of variables here. We could talk all day in different ways we don't need the road, but as far as for life saving, I mean, you save one life is enough to justify a road. I don't you don't care what it costs. You got to take care of the people that are in our country here in America. 40 years now we've been working on this, and I know we got a lot of opposition from some of the areas up north, but that has to stop. Alaska got to get united in the native front and not have any an animosity about something you want to do somewhere else. A road that's going to be away from the all the birds. It's inland, over a half a mile, the closest spot on the road that's going to be, it's designed now and going to be put in here, hopefully. And I mean, it's going to open up all the, just so we could travel safely in and out of King Cove. That's, it's a lifeline to, we're always saying medical. That's what it's based on, is medical. Everything else falls into place after the medical. Get somebody out so they can get their health care to stay alive.
The proposed King Cove Road, it would connect the town of King Cove to an airport, but it would cut through a national wildlife refuge. We're learning about this issue today. It's a big potential infrastructure project on an Aleutian island in Alaska. And for any of our Alaska listeners right now, if you are familiar with the proposed King Cove Road project, if you have thoughts in terms of what this means for your community, maybe you support the road, maybe you don't support the road. Either way, we would love to have you join this conversation. The number to our studio, 1-800-996-2848. That's also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Give us a call, share your insights, share your comments. We want to hear from listeners today as well as our guests. So again, that number, 1-800-996-2848. Another short break, and we'll be right back.
The Association on American Indian Affairs invites all to Tribal Museums Day, December 6th through December 12th. Tribal museums may offer no cost or reduced admission, gift shop discounts, art markets, and live cultural demonstrations. Tribal Museums Day honors diverse Native nations as the experts of their own cultures. You can find a map of tribal museums and more at indian-affairs.org/Tribal Museums Day. The association supports this show.
To Native America Calling, we're continuing our conversation about the controversial King Cove Road project. This road would connect residents in the Alaskan town of King Cove to medical care, but it would cut through a wildlife refuge. Joining us now from Hooper Bay, Alaska, is Edgar Tall Sr. He is the chief of the village of Hooper Bay. He is Yupik. Chief Tall, good morning and welcome back to Native America Calling. It's great to have you back on the show.
Good morning. Thank you.
Absolutely. Why do you oppose a road to connect King Cove to an airport?
Yeah, I oppose it because I am mostly, I eat through land, sea, and air. And, I don't want to be eating through the store because I myself have to either going to teach my kids how to survive out there, especially with this fast-changing climate.
Mm-hmm. Chief Tall, the people making the decisions, are they listening to the concerns by you and other villagers?
There's some more, there's some are joining, and we have a few communities that joined in the fight for Izembek.
Uh-huh. Now, this road, the impact that it will have on the birds and the refuge that your village relies on, many folks there live a subsistence lifestyle. Is there any way to measure just to what extent the road will impact this wildlife?
Yeah, as for the emperor geese and the black branch, we already seen decrease on the birds because of climate change, and it's probably gonna make it more worse because they don't leave Izembek. They stay there all year round. That's gonna be causing so much problems because it's going to be a little stressful for them to come around, stay there, and try to survive all through that stuff.
Throughout your life, have you seen a diminishing of the birds there in this refuge due to other factors?
Yeah. There was, lots of climate change, especially when it's also flooding, and nowadays we're going through a typhoon, and it's crazy because we just went through one, and some of our neighboring villages from below us got hit worse, and we got lucky with it because it died down before it hit our village.
Okay. Now, as I understand, the birds, they stop in the refuge and then they move up to your village a couple 100 miles north of the refuge. So this is a migratory pattern that these birds follow. Chief Tall, tell us more. What will it mean ultimately if this road is built? How will it impact village life? How could it impact the local economy maybe? How do you see it impacting the overall ecology long term?
Yeah. The birds eat the eelgrass there, and that's the only place where most of the eelgrass is mostly settled at Izembek, to where they come up here, they nest, they eat berries, stuff what they need to go back down to Izembek with, and then when they build a road, it's just going to create so much dust for the whole area. It's not going to just be a small area. It's going to be a whole area. And that area, when it gets full of dust, it just gets, creates microgerms, and it can affect the birds and the people of this area. We do notice change on that, and it's getting harder to try.
Okay. All right, Chief Tall, thank you. Mayor Wilson, I want to bring you back into the conversation because you mentioned earlier that you're most focused on what it means in terms of human lives and the potential that this airport has to medevac residents out of the village in the case of a serious medical emergency. But listening now, more to Chief Tall and just some of these environmental concerns, do you have any thoughts with regard to how this will impact this wildlife habitat in the refuge?
Okay, with the road where it's proposed right now is inland from any lagoon, the Kinizarif Lagoon to the south, the Izembek Moffat Lagoons to the north. It's probably about 5 miles to the north, and then it'll be close. The closest spot would be a half a mile to the lagoon to the south. There'll be no impact to any bird that flies there. They won't be around any lagoon. The dust control that he's talking about is not going to happen because it's so far away. You could look at any erosion, a lot of erosion around here. That in itself would create dust. There's no way you could justify dust off of a road. A road with the storms we have around here, with the rain, the dust will be minimal. The birds, actually, the brant, they go all the way to Mexico. Almost all of them go to Mexico every year. The birds that stay here in these lagoons all winter long, they go all the way up into Siberia and up in the North Arctic region of Alaska. I was just up in Barrow a few months ago. There was lots of brants up there. They just did a count just now, last week up here in Izembek. Those counts will be out in a couple months of how many brant are up there. Last year they counted 245,000 brants. There is no shortage of brant on planet Earth in this area. I can't stress that enough, that the road is not going to affect those birds. There's aircraft flying over that lagoon every single day, and it hasn't stopped the birds. A road with a car will not affect the birds. When we drive around the cities, Anchorage or any other city, there's geese all over the place in those big cities. The roads that are up there in the Izembek, that are right in the heart of Izembek or right into the Cove Bay area, those are the roads that it'll affect those birds. They haven't done that yet. This little 500-acre corridor inland from any lagoon is not going to hurt the birds.
Okay.
The birds fly over the top.
Okay. 1-800-99-NATIVE. Listeners, especially folks who are listening in Alaska, tell us your thoughts on this proposed King Cove Road. 1-800-99-NATIVE. Whether you support the road, whether you don't support the road, either way, we'd love to hear from you. 1-800-99-NATIVE. Give us a call. Mayor Wilson, you mentioned earlier, 40 years, 4 decades in the making. This project has been debated and advocated and also opposed. Now that the Trump administration supports the project, how confident are you that it will be built?
Confident. I'm really confident it's going to happen. I think we went through with the last SEIS, a supplemental EIS to the 2013 or 2019 Zinke proposal he had in there to get the land exchange done. We did another SEIS on it through the Deb Haaland and Biden administration. We got all the framework done on that. And then when Trump got in here, we used the same analysis we got from the originally EIS, and then we brought that into the new land exchange, and we got the land exchange signed last week. I mean, if you got to be confident it's going to happen. We got the state of Alaska on board to with the design for the road. It's almost done right now. The last of the surveying is going to be done this week. I mean, it's if you're not confident, then I don't think you'll ever be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know in one of the articles I read, Mayor, there was a comment that there are a lot of Alaska Native villages that don't have road access. There are a lot of Native villages that are in similar situations with regard to not having a road like this is described, but they manage okay. And their thought is, well, why is there so much emphasis on pushing for this road for this specific village? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, 26 lives. That's the thought on it. I could talk all day on I got pictures in my album of a Cherokee 6 laying on the ground up here all wrecked. I got to take a picture today of a King Air right above King Cove that took 8 lives. There's a crash up on Mount Dutton where a big DC-8 crashed in this area. There's just loss of life alone will tell you that we need a road. And then that's why I said earlier, Alaska, Native Alaskans got to get together to advocate for roads. I hear it in a lot of conferences I'm at in Anchorage. The people say we need a road to our hub. It's only a little ways away. We're at the most 11 miles away from the other road over there in Cove Bay to connect these two communities. There's human life over a bird, I guess, is what we got to look at. But if Alaska wants to get something done, the Native people got to quit fighting and come together to get what they want.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Chief Edgar Tall Sr., I want to go back to you. You've been on our show before, as we mentioned, and the last time you joined us, we talked about the effects of climate change on your village. How concerned are you now about how climate change is affecting the refuge and what the future holds?
Yeah, we went through our first typhoon, I think 2021, yeah. And then we just got to this. It's getting more and more to the point where the people have to be ready. We looked out, we were ready, we were already prepared, but the other villages were, I don't know if they were prepared or not, but, but we hunt through the summer and through the winter. Through the fall time before winter hits, it gives out a really bad effect if the lights or electricity are wiped out and everything that they hunted for all spring, summer, early fall. Now they got to, rely on something that they haven't eaten for years or barely eat, like from the store. That creates a great big problem for the natives, especially the elders that hardly eat from the store. They have to rely on what they've been growing up with, because they take care of themselves and they take care of the other lands like I do, and I try to teach my children like that. It's a very, moment to where we have to think as to where, if another typhoon going to hit, do we have to evacuate people? Yeah, we do. Lucky there was airlines from Bissell that evacuated maybe 100 people from here because they wanted to move to a different place. I told them it's a typhoon, just you got to trust in us to try to protect our people, not just for myself. But yeah, I feel.
Chief Tall, we've got about a minute
lucky
before we have to wrap up. You've mentioned Typhoon Halong several times. Tell us a little bit more about how it has impacted your community and surrounding villages as well.
Yeah, it, impacted the land around them to where, some land has changed. They will notice the difference, because I noticed the difference from that the birds just bypassed this way because the water got so high and disrupt the birds like the berries where they eat off the beach and the shoreline. It's just affecting the whole way of life up this way. And, people will see.
All right. Well, thank you. Sure. Thank you, Chief Tall Sr. And Mayor Wilson, we have to wrap up here in about a minute. I'm going to go ahead and give you the last word. Anything else you want to share with our listeners before we end the show?
Oh, yes. I'd like to, I feel really bad for the folks up there in the YK Delta that got hit with that typhoon, and I know that climate change is everywhere. And but we have to take care of our people in the state of Alaska, whether we're from different areas. We did offer the owner of the plant here in King Cove did offer his facility to put people up if need be, which was a big surprise that somebody would do that. But anything to help our fellow man, we're here for them. And as far as climate change goes, we get storms every other week here. Winds at 100 knots, a lot of rain, torrential rains. We're getting a lot of mudslides and stuff too in our area. So it's all over the state. It's all over the world. And then but I think I'll just stop there. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah. Appreciate all of our guests who joined the conversation today. Chief Edgar Tall Sr., President, Mayor Warren Wilson, BC Regional Chief Terry Teegee, and Darwin Hanna. Please join us again tomorrow for another live show about timely Native issues. I'm Sean Spruce. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Achun Kadan. Chatluk ida yadus eche kedu shachti kan echexati. Ichti in yukail ataqatla yadus eche sa cake wak aegis. Healthcare.gov/coverage katil qain kachu 1-800-318-2596 kachi Medicare ka Medicaid jidachi qatan aya.
Every family caregiver could use help finding the necessary resources to care for their loved one. The AARP Family Caregiver Resource Guide helps family caregivers access key programs, services, and agencies in their communities. A copy of the guide is available by calling 877-333-5885 or online at aarp.org/caregiverresources. AARP supports this show.
Native America Calling is produced in the Izembek National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, a native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.